Today we're going to be looking at another writing informative passage. This one is titled A Wolf in Coyote's Clothing. As always, we're going to be going through the entire passage, all 11 questions, and we're going to be explaining each one so that you understand how to approach these informative passages and are ready to ace the SAT writing and language section. If you like these videos or find them informative, please be sure to like and subscribe. And with that, let's get started on our first question. Alright, so here we have, it's nighttime, all is still. Suddenly, the mournful howl of a coyote drifts through the crisp night air. This isn't the New Mexico desert or the plains of Wyoming. Alright, let's see. So, the plains of Wyoming is underlined, and we have to change that into one of these four options, right? Leave it or one of the new three options. So we have New Mexico desert here, which means that we're going to say the state first, followed by the adjective, followed by the biome. We have to say the state first, Wyoming, and then the adjective, the biome, which is plains. We have to say Wyoming and then plains, which is choice D. So let's move on now. Alright, this is downtown Chicago, New York City's Central Park, or suburban Connecticut. Over the past several decades, coyotes have been moving steadily eastward and showing up in unexpected places. And we're given other choices such as out of the blue locations, totally random hangouts, and wondrous positions. So essentially, we're trying to figure out which one fits the tone of the passage. So unexpected places sounds kind of formal, which is kind of how the passages sounded. So it seems like that would work. At out of the blue locations is extremely informal, totally random hangouts, again, not professional, and then wondrous positions, which is just not the right context here. So all of those have an informal tone, while unexpected places have the formal tone. So that's why we're going to use unexpected places, because this is a informative passage. It is a formal passage. It has a formal tone, and our answer is no change. Let's keep going. But that's not all that's strange about these eastern coyotes. They're also bigger than their western cousins. They live in groups and hunt in packs, whereas western coyotes are solitary and hunt alone. The differences pique scientists' curiosity, and since the writer is considering deleting this portion and any sentence with a period. Let's see if the writer should do that or not. So you're talking about eastern coyotes here, and then here you have the other side of the coin, right? So using this sentence kind of completes that contrast between the eastern and the western coyotes. So you need that there, so you can't get rid of it, and you need it there to complete the contrast between the eastern and western coyotes. Again, answer choices we see we keep it there, we don't get rid of it, and it's answer choice B completes the contrast between the behavior of the eastern and western coyotes. It doesn't talk about their visual differences, it talks about their behavioral differences. And we can move on to the next question. So we're asked which choice most effectively establishes the main topic of the paragraph. We're going to read the entire paragraph before we actually answer this question. Now, recent genetic studies have confirmed what these experts suspected. The eastern coyotes are actually coy wolves, that is, coyote-wolf hybrids. Different eastern coyote populations have different exact genetic compositions, which scientists have described the average eastern coyote as being a combination of 3 different species in the genus Canis. Specifically, the animals are mostly coyote, with a sizable wolf contribution and a little bit of domestic dog thrown in for good measure. Alright, so this whole paragraph is talking about this hybrids, right? So what does that suggest? Well, that the eastern coyotes are different fundamentally from the western coyotes, right? So the eastern coyotes are different. It could be just completely different species than the western coyotes, which we see as answer choice A. Some researchers hypothesize that eastern and western coyotes might not be the same species. The other 3 answer choices don't talk about how they might be different from the western coyotes, right? Because this paragraph just expanding on those differences by looking at genetics, and none of these 3 answer choices look at that. All right, we can move on. All right, down here, different eastern coyote populations have different exact genetic compositions, which scientists have described the average eastern coyote as being a combination of 3 different species in the genus Canis. All right, so let's see. Okay, so here we have scientists have described the average coyote as being a combination of 3 different species in the genus Canis, right? So essentially, this is kind of an explanation of this clause right here, for that clause. So different genetic compositions, comma, well, which doesn't really set up that explanation correctly, right? Because we already have this word have in here, and that really messes it up, right? Which scientists described as being a combination of three different species of the genus genus, that would work. But we have this word have in here, that extra verb, so we can't use the word which. And then we have but right here, but these aren't a contrast, so we can't use that. Then we just choose between that and then, right? So let's see. Well, then is usually when referring to something like a people, while that is referring to objects mainly, right? So we're referring to the genetic compositions here. We're referring to the actual DNA in this sentence. So it's going to be an object, which is that, right? Not the then, because we're talking about the DNA itself, which is a that. All right, question number 6. Down here, these three species can produce viable, fertile offspring because they have all 39 pairs of chromosomes. 6. And we're trying to illustrate a concept introducing the preceding species by using another species as an example, and we're trying to figure out which choice best accomplishes the goal. We have to talk about the chromosomes. Well, this one doesn't talk about chromosomes, this one doesn't either. This one doesn't say that the fertile offspring is because they all have the same number of chromosomes. It talks about one species. And this is good because this is the opposite of that coin, the other side of that coin. Right, so the first sentence says they have fertile offspring because they have the same number of chromosomes, and this one says they don't have fertile offspring because they have different number of chromosomes. Right, it's a complete contrast, and that's what we're trying to illustrate. So that's our answer. Keep going. Most animals prefer to mate within their own species, but sometimes where there are small populations and few choices of mates, hybridization can occur. When it does, the offspring resembles something in between the two parent species. Alright, so here we have to figure out if the offspring is a singular or plural, right? Let's see. So the offspring, right? The offspring is not going to be a singular thing, right? It's going to refer to all of the offspring. That's going to be plural. So we need a plural word here. Now, even though it has that S on the end, it's kind of confusing. Resembles is singular, resemble is plural. When we're looking at verbs, if it has the S on the end, it's singular, and if it doesn't have the S on the end, it's usually a plural. Right? It's just the opposite from a noun. But since this part is plural, we need a plural here, which is going to be resemble. And we can move on to the next question. These animals will have a new set of traits. In many cases, these traits will often turn out to be neutral or even negative. But we say many cases, and then we say often again, which is repetitive, so we don't need both of those. Right, so we can't use the word often, right, because that's repetition. Then we have will turn out to be and will turn out as resulting traits that are. Well, resulting is the same as will turn out as. So that's repetitive again. Then we look at our shortest answer, will turn out to be. In many cases, these traits will turn out to be neutral or even negative. That's smooth, it's concise, and that's our answer. Alright, let's look at the next question. In the case of the eastern coyote, however, it seems that the genetic contribution from wolves has actually been the key to the animal's success and expansion. I'm trying to give historical context for the changes in the environment. Let's see. So, we're trying to give historical context for changes in the environment. That's what we're doing right here. How do we do that? How do we do that? Well, we're talking about how the wolves have been the key to the animal's success and expansion. Let's see. So we need to get that changes in the environment, and we see that answer choice A says settlers had wiped out large predators like wolves and mountain lions in the eastern portion of the United States by the beginning of the 19th century, leaving the ecosystem without an apex predator. Right, now the reason I picked this one is because I see that gives changes in the environment, but I also see if I look down here to the next couple of sentences, talking about no predators. No predators, and we're talking about the white-tailed deer, which is prey, and there's no apex predator. That's what this is saying, right? This is setting up this part down here, the next paragraph. You can always look before and after a certain sentence or a certain paragraph to give more context and to give more an idea about what you're looking for in an answer choice. And our answer choice here is A. And we can move on. In the second half of the 20th century, more of the population moved to cities and suburbs, and fewer acres have been needed for agriculture. Consequently, much of the land has been slowly reverting to forest. With ample habitat and no predators, species such as the white-tailed deer have populated the eastern U.S. in unprecedented numbers. Well, it says with ample habitat and no predators. This is going to be a modifier, an introductory phrase, so we need that comma there. We have to get rid of B and D, since those don't have the comma. And then here we have predators, species, such as. And here we just have predators, species, such as. Well, we don't need this comma here because that just separates species on its own, and that's not its own clause. Right, so it has to be with ample habitat, no predators, species such as the white-tailed deer. That is our answer. No change. We can't put in that extra comma, and we can move on to the next question. All right. Western coyotes, small and solitary hunters, are no match for even injured or young deer. Hunting in packs by the larger eastern coyotes, the oversaturated deer population can be seriously impacted. Alright, let's see. So it says hunting in packs by the larger eastern coyotes, the oversaturated deer population can be seriously impacted. Well, this seems like a bit weird, right? This is a modifier, and it doesn't really seem like that should be a modifier because there's nothing for it to modify. Here it says the oversaturated deer population, which is certainly not what it's modifying, right? So that won't work. And then we see the oversaturated deer population by the whoa. This is just really weird, right? This is just mix and match and everything, so that doesn't work. And then we have hunting in packs, the larger eastern coyotes can have a serious impact on the oversaturated deer population. And hunting in packs, the serious impact can be had on the oversaturated deer population by the larger eastern coyotes. Well, this hunting in packs here is our modifier or introductory phrase. So the word right after this is going to be the larger eastern coyotes, because that is the one who is hunting in packs. So it has to be the larger eastern coyotes, the word right after this comma, and our answer is B. Right, C is incorrect because a serious impact is not the one hunting in packs. The larger eastern coyotes are hunting in packs. This is where, so the first word after this introductory phrase has to be whatever this is modifying, which is the larger eastern coyotes. And that is our answer. That is it for this passage, and please join us next time when we look at another informative passage. That is it for this topic, and I'll see you next time.